Okay, I think we're going to start. It's 2:00, right? So let's do our introductions quickly for those of us who are here. I don't know if anybody's online. Is anyone online? I'm going to ask that first because Shannon and I have forgotten in the past when you've been on there, and I'm so sorry. Okay, I don't hear anybody online. All right. I'm Charlie Johnson, recently retired from Convention and Visitors Bureau, Visit Fargo-Moorhead. Let's go left.
Mallory Ackerman, Visit Fargo-Moorhead.
Shannon Full, the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber.
Kate Ballstead, the Southeast Education Cooperative.
Kent Kolstad, President at Livewire.
Dave Pepcorn, City Commission.
Eric Johnson, Assistant City Attorney.
Taylor Snelling, owner of Mezzaluna.
Jim Gilmore, City of Fargo staff.
Claire Hughes, Clubhouse Hotel and Suites.
Shirley Hughes, that's funny, two in a row. Shirley Hughes, incoming CEO of Visit Fargo-Moorhead.
You're not related, though?
No.
No? Okay.
Not that we know.
Get that out of there now, in public. Okay, so we're going to talk about a few things today on the agenda. The first thing I want to do isn't actually on the agenda, though. Yesterday, I sent you a couple of emails I had gotten from interested parties. I guess you would refer to it as lobbying from people who are interested parties, which is fine. Of course, they're welcome to do that. My view is if I get emails like that, I'm going to share them with you. Some of you may have gotten those same emails. Some of you may have gotten others. I'm not here to say that you have to share everything you get with us. If you want to, you can. But we just want those folks to know that we recognize their opinions and certainly haven't discounted them. But we also recognize the fact that ultimately there are 9 projects proposed and 8 of them are not going to be the one we select. And so every single one of us at this table has friends, business colleagues, maybe relatives, board members, you name it, in every single proposal. We know people in every single proposal. The town's not that big, and the things that get done around here are very, it's a tight circle of people who do different things. We all kind of know each other. So we recognize the fact that we can only choose one, ultimately, in the end. First, we're going to narrow it down, I think, to 4, but then ultimately we can only choose one. So, of course, there is going to be disappointment. So, we don't really need to apologize for that disappointment. We're doing the best we can. I think this committee's doing a great job. I appreciate how dedicated you all have been to this, and I think we're heading in the right direction. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we understand that ultimately we have to pick one, and we can't go back and pick them all. It just isn't going to work. So anyway, that's all I have to say about that. We appreciate the info. I should have said also, in addition to some emails, I'm sure we've all gotten some phone calls. I know I have for like the last year and a half from people who are interested in the project. And I will always talk to them and answer whatever questions I can based on what's happening in the committee. So that's okay too. But we've got a process and it seems to be working. So let's move forward with that. Okay. So we talked a little bit about SWOT analysis, pros and cons discussion. I know we asked you to think about, the SWOT analysis for all 9 of these proposals. I don't necessarily want to get too bogged down going through individual SWOTs for every single of the 9 projects. Frankly, that would take a long time. But I would like at this point to open up the floor so in case there is some discussion that people want to talk about with regard to any of the projects, including, the ones that didn't hit the top 4 in the scoring, this would be a good time if you wanted to point something out. We have the HVS strengths and weaknesses up there, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which I'm sure you've all seen. We could go through those a little bit and see if that sparks any conversation. I know I have a printed copy of it here somewhere. There it is. So, anybody wants to jump in at any time, this would be a good time to do it. We're looking at the HVS one, where they're talking about the RLE is the one, so that's the Fargo Dome. Their strengths, the strengths he lists there, this is Tom Hazinski, local development experience, use of the Fargo Dome function space, parking availability. Weaknesses, location, potential conflicts with stadium schedule, need for lease negotiations with NDSU, so far lack of hotel vision. Entertainment opportunities include that entertainment district development, additional Fargo Dome financing capacity. I assume he's referring to the reserve fund that the Fargo Dome has. And threats would be inability to finance the hotel, insufficient city resources, or the hotel in the second phase. Let's see, do you want to go through all of these for each one? Sure, let's do it, why not? We got a little time. The Christensen one, which was not in the top 4 in the scoring, local development experience.
Can
Sorry.
we just discuss this one first and then go to the next one? Because
Sure.
then we don't have to do them all.
Yeah.
But if there's a weakness in the Fargo Dome one, it's concern about the ability to run a convention center? Is that one? That's one of the issues?
He states, location, potential conflicts with stadium schedule, need for lease negotiations with NDSU. He calls it lack of hotel vision, but I think it's not a
So one of the
specific
concerns
partner.
is how to run both facilities, right? I think the second concern we would have as a team would be, what are the finances? So as I understand it, we own the land, or can lease the land. The hotel can lease the land, the entertainment can lease the land. As I understand it, the advantage in some ways of the Fargo Dome is maybe they'll throw another 5 or 10 million in on the cost. Is that correct? But here's what I
Explain that
say,
to
just
me.
when they're coming back to us, I'd like to see what they think they're gonna put into it.
Yes.
Because I think we saw some of the developers, I think Dave talked about this, that are so much per square foot and what
Mm-hmm.
we do and what you could build. I'd like to see from them what they're thinking, if they're
Yeah.
gonna build something bigger, better, whatever, than other sites.
Yeah.
Can't we at this time look at each site that the 4 finalists are, or what we think
Yeah.
we need more detail on?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do in the second round of RFP, of course. We're going to have, and we have a copy of some suggested things for that going forward.
So
But
the
yes,
purpose of today is just to mention the Prime 4, but we're not going to talk about how to make them better, or are we going to do that after the commission says that's the 4?
I think that would come after the commission approved the 4. So let me give you an idea. I've talked to some committee members about this. My feeling is, if we get a motion today to approve sending the top 4 to the city commission, it would be on your agenda on October 13th, and we have to do it today to get on that agenda. And then next week, we would probably spend our meeting talking about the RFP, more detail on the RFP, the second round version, thank you, yes, the second round of the RFP, what details we want, which will certainly include financing questions, much more financing and design detail. And more detail on where the hotel's coming from, who your partner's going to be. Is this real? Is it really going to happen for all of them? This is a
Well, I'm
question
just-
for all of them.
I
And
know
then
you're-
ultimately, then we would, once the city commission, if the city commission deems to approve those 4 as the 4 finalists, then I think we should go back and invite each of the 4 finalists back for a Q&A with us, sitting around this table, where we can ask them those questions, and people can say, okay, here are the things we liked about your project, here are some of the questions we have, and we could do that with all 4 of them before they go back and start crafting their second round. And then ultimately, when that's done and the RFP is done, then we would send it out, give it to them, and they would have whatever many days Jim decides. Jim's talking about 90. We'll see if they need 90. We'll quiz them about that. And then at that point, then we'd probably take another hiatus until those second round things come in. And then when they come in, then we'll probably have them back to do a presentation again of their final proposal.
I know you're semi-retired, but I want to get expedience of time.
Yeah,
We know there's 4, we can give some advice to how to do that. I don't know how many meetings we need that they're going to have to go out and come back with their answers.
yeah.
So I don't know if in between we send Jim our concerns about each project and then that gets shared with the whole group or something, or if you're expecting it all to happen in this meeting. That's all I'd like to expedite our time because I'd like to get the final product.
Yeah.
As fast as
I'm 100% with you.
Okay.
We
So
want
I don't
this
want a
group-
meeting, I don't want 3 more meetings. I'd like to know what's the best
yeah.
speed at which we can come to it, because I think the group's agreeable that we're going to put 4 up there, unless there's somebody today who wants 5. Is that right?
I don't see, I don't think putting 5 is a
Maybe
good
those
idea.
4, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then
So.
If that's
we ju-
there, then I just saying that
Yeah.
could go next commission meeting.
Yeah, well, that's the plan, October 13th. We want to get that there, absolutely. So we just want to take a few minutes for people to have a chance, if there was anything else you wanted to say. Jim, I think Dave wanted to say something. No? Jim?
So first of all, I wanted to thank, so now I got all the, everybody's votes, so thank you for that, because that was what I was looking for last week, and the first time I saw it was at the last meeting, so I got to see that, so thank you very much for that. And just a suggestion, I think we should just read the top four.
Okay.
If that makes sense to you, and then just, to me, that's the thing. And off the mayor's conversation, to me, the next step, the learning more about all that technical stuff, that is going to be a lot, very complicated. And so, but that's kind of the next step after this, if that makes sense.
Right,
Once we get to those four, then we start because a lot of those questions will be answered with the next round, if that makes sense.
Yes, but I really do want us to have a dialogue with them once it's officially approved, and we'll set that schedule. We probably do 2 2-hour meetings, similar to what we did before with the 90-minute meetings. Well, they ended up being 2 hours anyway, and have, 2 weeks of that, so an hour each for each of the 4 finalists to come in, so we can quiz them. Not necessarily, this is before they go back and redraw. They're probably doing that all the time anyway, but before we ask them to come back with it, we want to talk to them about their proposals. Jim, did you want to add something?
I just think the developers would welcome the idea to meet with you because,
yeah.
there were some comments and that they'd like to clarify. They'd also like to get some feedback from you, like what could we do to make our proposal better?
Yeah, 100%, I agree. And by the way, I'm 100% with you. I don't see the point, frankly. I mean, they're all great proposals, but we have a pretty clear delineation of the top 4. I'd be fine going through the strengths and weaknesses of those 4 today and not doing the others unless someone else sees something really compelling that they want to bring up. So it's kind of a going, gone situation. But I hear you and I agree.
Yeah, I would just agree, even if there are comments that are those that are not the top 4, my concern is we've followed a process and you don't want to jeopardize the integrity of the process. I don't know how you change anything now with the scoring metric already in place. That's just, whether, again, I think I said my 4 were not the top 4, that's totally fine. That's what the whole group came together to do, and now we need to move forward as a group in the best way that we can. So.
Yeah. It doesn't really matter what order the top 4 are in because the game is new with the 4. Okay, I like that. Okay. All right, so you want to talk a little bit more about the Fargo Dome first? Since we just went through those strengths and weaknesses. Anybody have comments on that? Sir?
Can I just, on what we're doing, so that's what we expect to have answers for at the next round. I mean, that gives them a pretty good indication of what we're looking for, just some of those questions that are up there right now. So I do like that. I mean, those are some specific things that we need to know more about in the next round. And so I think this is an excellent thing. I'm glad they're doing that. So thank you.
Yeah, and this is, and this is fairly brief. The point is, if you see something else you want to add to that, now's the time to do it. So.
Right, so maybe, Charlie, I just have a clarifying question. So this is HVS's.
This is
thoughts.
HVS's list of, yes.
How is it best, besides us just going through our own thoughts, is there if this document is going to be something we provide or it's public record to the 4 top, how are we putting all of our thoughts into, this concerns me only because this looks like this is the only
Right, no, it's
SWAT
not. Yeah.
pieces. Like, this is just HVS, who hasn't been a part of the whole
Right,
process with
right,
us.
right.
So I'm just trying to think, how do we collect our individual SWAT thoughts without saying them all, going around the room to each one? Is there a better way to collect some of that? I see some have already put it in the template, some
Yeah,
have, so.
a couple of people did, and we could certainly have you do that for the next meeting and try to compile them. There'll be a lot of ones that are very similar, I'm sure,
Even if there's a way to aggregate some of that, but to have somebody compile that, I just think if the next step is, once city commission approves, is to bring each of the 4 back for clarifying questions.
Yep.
To be able to have that prior to the clarifying questions, I think would give them a lot of, to your point, Dave, that it would give them a lot of, I can come better prepared for that conversation. So just a thought.
Can I add a couple things real quick? So if you don't mind, I'll talk about the Fargo Dome. I have a couple of questions, if that's
Yeah.
okay. To me, the one, one of the other proposers talked about a full-service hotel, and the Fargo Dome kind of does not have a full service. And so my question would be, is there a reason behind that? Do you get what I mean? Because one of the proposers said that was a very important thing. And so if they have a reason behind that, I just want to know that. The other thing is with NDSU, to me, that's very complicated. And so to have that more clarified for us, what is the commitments? What is the plan? All those things, and how, like the potential of connecting with the basketball arena, how are those agreements all going to me, those are things that I think, and also obviously the parking, what are their plans? They're going to lose some, how will that work? How are you going to replace those, or how is that? So those are just a couple of my questions.
Yeah, and I would add development, who's responsible for developing the little village in front of it? Is that NDSU? Who's going to be involved in that? And I agree with all of these questions. We want to know more. We need to know more about the hotel. It seems like it's, I mean, they have a footprint, and some ideas, but I don't think there's anybody locked up on that, and that needs to happen in the second round, stuff like that.
Can I just add one more thing?
Yeah.
The other thing, when you talk about that, it's complicated because that's state land, and it's a long-term lease on the Fargo Dome. And so what they're talking about is having some private development on this leased land. And that's why attorneys and that's going to be very complicated.
Yeah.
And so to give you an example, let's say hypothetically, they're looking for tax incentives on the private land on the leased land. It's like, that has to be spelled out, though. We need to know what the plan is. And so to me, those are some of my questions for the Fargo Dome one. I apologize for talking so much.
No.
But those are my questions.
No, those are all good questions. What else? What else you got? I don't disagree on any of that. We need to know more about that. And it's not clear to me if the lease has already been, we don't want to stand up and answering questions now, but, we need to find out how, I know they have a lease to build the convention space. They've struck that deal, I know, with NDSU, I'm sure they have. But I'm not sure about the hotel or if that's still in progress, and then for the rest of the stuff that's going to come, because the development around it is going to be important to it.
Well, and I think in their presentation too, I have all those same questions written down, but they have to follow their own due processes. So it sounded like they had to wait, and then that's why the hotel is phase 2, because then they have to go do their own RFP for that.
Yeah,
So they can't go do that now if they haven't been selected,
yeah.
was my understanding. So it's
Yeah,
just
and the
proposed.
question is, how long will that delay it?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, they do operate under different rules than private land does.
And one more thing, they have a fund, $47 million. What of that is going to be committed to this project? What are the sections of it? How much are they willing to use for that? How does this tie into the existing building and things like that? All right.
Yep.
I'm talking way too much. So
No, I think
Charlie,
you're
the
artic-
chairman. Feel free to shut me down at any time.
I don't know if that's a good look. We're going to, it's okay. I think the questions you brought up are ones that we all have and we have discussed before. So anything else about the RLE project, the Fargo Dome project? And yes, if you want to send us your own strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, I have to think about that before. That would be great, and we can try to aggregate it for next week's meeting.
Or even just additional clarifying questions. I think this is a
Yeah.
great way to do it, is to talk about, we may not have to go through all of the SWOT pieces, but
Right.
what questions do we have more? I think that would help the
Thank you.
developer.
Thank you. I've never been one hung up on these things, so yes, just questions really about individual projects, the 4. But it's okay, I think, for us to discuss it a little bit here, so they get an idea of what's going on. It's kind of what we planned for most of this meeting anyway, so then we'll move on to the RFP. So then Enclave, you see what they have up here. You want me to read through these quick from HVS, and then you can see what you think about them. Enclave project, local development experience, connection to Shields Arena, other proximate hotels available, and then site control. Weakness, location, potential conflict with arena schedule, no attached hotel. cited in the plan. I thought it was attached on the other side of the, I think it is, he may have misunderstood that. It's on the other side of the arena, but it is connected and you would walk through the lobby. Further west side development is an opportunity. I think development is an opportunity for every single one of these projects. I mean, you know, there's room for development downtown, and there's room for development around Bruhala, there's room for development at the Dome. Some, anyway, hopefully it would work out that way, and of course, there's room for development down south. So they all have that opportunity in them. The threats, displacement of other possible development, uncertain funding plan, which is one of those things. That's going to be true of all of them, of course. So other specific things about that one you want to make a note of right now?
Charlie, I have a couple questions. One is the land.
I was going to shut you down. I'm kidding, I'm not.
But from what I understand, so Sanford is in that vicinity. What land is theirs? And the Park District is involved in the land. And how is it committed? Or to me, we just need to know more about that from my perspective. Then when you talked about the hotel, once again, one of them talked about the importance of having the hotel and the food service close to each other. And so to me, if they can show that to us, what's the relationship between the convention center, the hotel, and the food service? Because that was one of the things they said how important it was to be close. All right.
Still talking about Enclave.
Isn't there a parking structure issue?
Say it again?
Parking structure?
You can speak, it's okay. Yeah, and you
Part-
can't vote.
wasn't there- I believe, I can't vote. I believe there was the parking structure, correct?
Okay, their plan, I remember this pretty specifically, I think, and someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but they plan on using, they have quite a bit of existing surface parking. And that's what they would use. It's plenty, I think, based on what we saw, until it starts to get developed more. The land where the parking is now could ultimately be developed, and I think that's when parking would become an issue for them. And also, there are other projects planned out there, including the proposed Science Museum would be in that same quadrant, and that might, if that comes to fruition, which everyone I think hopes it will, then that might necessitate a parking structure of some kind, but they won't need one right away, just for this project. Is that what you all remember too?
Yeah, that was one of my comments, was just a further build out of once fully executed development is in place, including other aspects like the Science Museum. What is the implications to parking then? And then how is that going to be funded? I thought that was an important part.
Yeah.
So.
The expandability, that's where this comes in, but I think it'd be good for this one specifically. What are the target numbers? They talk about that, how are you going to define that? What is this?
For parking, you mean?
Yes,
Yeah,
and for
okay.
the ramp, how do you define, when we need it, we're going to add it? Well, that's kind of an unknown. I'd like to know what the plan is when this.
Yeah, well, I think they would be replacing surface parking when, that's when they would need it. That's the way I understood their proposal anyway. And we can ask them about that more, for sure, more clarity.
And I would say that same thing for the Fargo Dome, right? You've got two very
Yes.
similar pieces that have a demand for parking when other aspects of the space are being filled.
Yeah.
And for all four, the expansion plans, what are your, when, this is one part of it, where's the expansion plans and how will you address those? That, to me, with the final four, that's,
Yep.
we already had that in.
Absolutely. Okay.
I'd
Other-
love to
yeah.
see some further clarification on how unifying the Metro Sports Foundation will look like with this project. I know we kind of asked a little bit, for instance, with the Fargo Dome, with their partnership with NDSU, what does this look like at the Shields Arena with MSF?
Yeah, and some of the same questions of scheduling arise with Shields Arena as they do with the Fargo Dome, which those are things that will have to come up for both of those, for sure. Anything else on this one? Okay, Mutchler Bartram, that's the Bruhala proposal. The strengths he cites, and again, these are just discussion starters for us: local development experience, location, site control, connection to Bruhala, local development experience. Not currently, a weakness is a not currently walkable destination, so it has to be self-contained. Opportunities, potential development of the First Avenue corridor. Then the threats might be an inability to finance the hotel, insufficient city resources. I'm not sure what he means by that, but let's hear what you guys think about this.
I can jump in. I think on the financing, building out the financing models for all four of these are going to be really critical, and being able to demonstrate that. For my perspective, for this one, a piece that wasn't brought up by HVS is I'd love some more clarification or just emphasis on traffic. I'm very concerned about the ability of First to really handle that amount of traffic is a concern of mine, but the rest of it seems great.
Does City Hall have an engineering department that can give us like a traffic count on that area and projections?
Yeah, I've talked to our city engineer about, the traffic thing, and certainly they're gonna have to make some, changes or adjustments for that, but we could have them, come and talk to the committee about what problems they would foresee there.
That'd be good, yeah.
Maybe
I think
for all of those, yeah.
For all of them, absolutely. I mean, there's no perfect place.
The management of the facility concerns me, or that's a question for them. How would it be managed? Because right now, it's a totally different breed of cat, what they have now compared to a convention center. And to me, to explain how and obviously the relationship with the CVB, how will that all go? So to me, the management.
That could be a question for everyone
I was
as
just
well.
going to say, that's one of my biggest questions
How
for all of
do
them.
we play together? So
And we want to put that, we're going to make sure that gets in the second round RFP.
Yeah.
How do you intend to, what's your plan for management and how are you going to work with Visit Fargo Moorhead? Because I think we generally feel that we should be deeply involved in, still say we, I can still say we, right?
You can say we,
I'm
yeah.
still- You're still
You can
paying me a
always
little
say
bit. So we feel we should be strongly involved in the marketing and sales of the convention space itself.
Yes,
this,
exactly right. You and I have talked about this, yeah.
I have Emma's notes, so I'm not entirely sure what she means by this, but one of her questions is, what does sales of this space look like on the Bruhala side as they have national ties? I'm not sure what that means, but that was a question she had written.
I have a question kind of on the design. I know they kind of talked about this in their previous proposal, but just being proximate to a railroad, that will be something that event planners maybe have questions or concerns with. So just like engineering-wise, architecturally, how is some of that sound going to be mitigated? Just some more information on that.
Just one more thing, that's the one thing when we visited those other places, to just have one representative instead of multiple entities representing the facility.
Right.
That, if you remember that was at a couple places, that caused difficulties instead of just having one person. So I do think that's an important thing to have clear too.
Yeah.
Just to voice it quickly on the note of management overall too. So 3 of the 4 that we're talking about have a very strong local management, possibility tied to them, right? EAPC, not to jump ahead off of the Bruhala location here, but EAPC is the one that is bringing in an external management entity for the convention center. So I will be very interested to know how each of these entities intend to allow for, outside vendors, local vendors, all the above, to work in their facility and making sure that that doesn't preclude a prospective event client from booking in the space if, they were to be penalized for utilizing their preferred own vendor as opposed to, say, an external management entity's AV, catering, what have you. So.
Exactly, and I think that's one of the things that we can discuss with them. Is this really what you want to do? We can ask any questions we want. Is there some alternative that could be worked out instead for this? I can think of a couple options, but we'll wait till we get into that to ask them. But I think that's a question, and that would relate directly to what Shirley and Mallory and I are concerned about. Yeah. Okay. Anything else on Bruhala site that you want to discuss? And again, let's take notes and write things down so that I'm sure there'll be more questions that we'll have them together, especially for when we meet with them. Okay, so then the fourth one is downtown, EAPC, right? Or as Tom Hazinski can't get past EPAC, but it's EAPC. We apologize for Tom for that. So let me see if I can find that. Where am I not? Oh, there we go. I have a lousy printer. I'm gonna have to get a new printer, I think. I'll talk to you about that. Okay, kidding. So EAPC, local development experience, location, connection to the Civic Center, existing hotel plus new rooms under development, site control. Weaknesses, long distance to connected Radisson Blue, no apparent expansion opportunities. Opportunities, Civic Center Plaza development, revived Civic Center, private investment potential, and development of a Moxie in the Radisson building. Threats, and again, this could be true of all of them, costs could exceed city capacity to fund the project. Okay. So the connection, Shannon and I had talked about this a little bit. They are connected to a hotel in their presentation. I think we can discuss that with them when they come in. But it would be a walkway, an enclosed it has to be an enclosed walkway, or I'm not counting it, you know. An enclosed walkway over to the Civic where you could then access the Skyway through the Civic. I think if part of this would have to be, how does the Civic come into play in this? It's also possibly part of the expansion project, but I mean, even the Civic as it exists now could be an exhibit hall. I think we'd want to think about, you know, improving the lobby and the bathrooms and that kind of stuff. But anyway, so it is connected to a hotel that way.
But I think a lot more has to be defined about the Skyways. How much are they going to cost? Who's going to pay for them? We know about maintenance and things like that, but to me, that's very important. And also the hotel that they're proposing, I need to know more about that. Just what exactly is it? Who's paying for it? Where is it going to be? The other thing was the food service was not with the building, and that concerned me. It was like, and it wasn't close. And so to me, to have them explain how that's going to work, because I think that other people have talked about how important that is. So those are my questions. The other thing is, I just want to clarify that land where they're proposing, the city of Fargo, that's our land, and we are not giving away anything for free, just to clarify that. And the Civic Auditorium, that's the city of Fargo Civic Auditorium, and we are not giving anything away for free. So I got the feeling that they thought this was part of the deal, and that's not part of the deal.
Well, there'll have to be a lease struck, similar to NDSU has with the dome for $1 a year, you know, and whatever it is.
But that's why this next phase, to find out what's their
Oh, of course,
financial plan. I'm willing to listen to that, but I'm just
sure.
And we are in no financial position to be given anything for $1. I'm just telling you, that's probably the most valuable property in the whole city of Fargo. And so to think that we're going to give that away, that's very, very unlikely.
Yeah, I would just add for the piece that I talked to Charlie about was the connectivity has a lot of uncertainties attached to it. We're not sure what's going to happen with the Civic Center. We don't know what the usability of that's going to be. And when this was a very top level requirement that it needed to be an attached hotel, I think even definition of an attached hotel is it a workable attached hotel? To bring food for 1,000 people multiple blocks away, I don't just know how, we need more clarification on how conducive that actually would be.
My question was also about the kitchen. So if in their floor plans, the kitchen was actually underground below the meeting space. So just knowing the difference of, you know, getting food up and down levels, I think that's a major concern for me.
Totally, yeah. I mean, if we use the example of a 1,000-plate meal, you know, there's not a lot of back of house storage, service hallways, the loading docks. I mean, all of those spaces are going to have to be eaten up with, you know, hot carts for all of those plates to get that service done, and nothing else is going to be able to happen in that space. It seems there's kind of a leftover element of maybe additional real estate that could be utilized, maybe not, as far as some of those, you know, logistical areas, storage, back of house, and so on. And I share the same concern, just to voice it on hotel. I mean, you know, at what level is this? Okay, and I mean, again, love the downtown element, right? All for that. I think that's absolutely in our strengths here. But, is this really just a hotel that happens to be connected via a skyway like you might see in Minneapolis, St. Paul, for example, right? As opposed to really truly connected.
So
Other thoughts?
I do
Mayor?
think it has to be addressed a little of the land, because it's a city of, theoretically, if the convention center went downtown, it'd be a city of Fargo structure or whatever. So you can't have NDSU get their land free, and down here, we wouldn't have to have some kind of arrangement. So Commissioner Pipcorn question is, would they pay for it, or would they want it in their structure, finances, would they want that land as our part of the contribution? So it's the same question, Charlie, I've always asked, is what are the economics of whatever you're going to do? But the idea that if it's on City of Fargo land, Civic Center, you're going to tear down the Civic Center for $2 million and build something in the Civic Center site. I think that what we want is clarifications, because Dave's point is maybe he wants money for it, and maybe it's a structure, well, you give us $4 million for the land, and that deducts from the convention side. But, I mean, that has to be discussed. So the expectation of the developer, if they expected the city to throw the land in for free.
Can I just add, one of the things that would help us is just to know what's the assessed value of that land right now? Just for the future, and what's the Civic Auditorium, what's it worth right now? Is it, do you know what I mean? I think that would help us to, at least with the negotiation a little bit, so we can.
I bet there's someone at City Hall who knows that answer. Yeah.
I think a couple more things to add to that, and this is the decision of the commission is you have 2 of the 4 now that then have city land and 2 that don't. So when you take into consideration the financing aspect of it and who's contributing what and how is that all going to be factored in, should be part of the decision-making process as well. The other thing I would be remiss to say is this one does have congestion issues when we're in high time periods, right? We're in a downtown area. We just have to be, it doesn't mean it can't be managed, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about that there will be congestion in the downtown.
Well, and also I think just the congestion is one thing, but also it was unclear to me where exactly the pickup and drop-off points would be for that. So that's something that would have to be addressed going forward it just wasn't clear. Yeah. Kate?
I think along with that, just general parking. I think enough is said with
Okay.
just parking.
Well, parking, and then I would also add in, and this is for all of them, but is the contiguous space aspect, just because with this one in particular, I mean, I'd have to double check, but again, with a lot of the other plans, if you had contiguous space over in the attached hotel, if you're planning on using that, it's just a time factor, and I'd be curious at a little more clarification on that.
And if I could just add to that point too, and I kind of referred to this already, also just event turnover. We want to book this space, right? We don't want to tell clients no. So ideally, we have opportunities to load an event, over here while another event is going on or a meeting is going on over here, that type of thing. Just from a real estate perspective, traffic flow perspective, everything that's been mentioned here already, we have very limited loading docks, we have very limited storage space, like I mentioned before. That's going to limit the amount of business that can roll through this facility at the same time too.
I just want to ask again, I'm just double checking here because I know I forget this. Has anyone called in online? Is anyone online who has a comment? I don't know if Denise might have been calling in, but I guess not. Okay. No, okay, thank you. Okay, other comments on the downtown site? Or any of them? We can compare and contrast. Okay. So, yeah, let's write down your questions and submit them to us, and we'll try to aggregate them for the next meeting and make sure we have everything we want, and then we'll discuss those things with them when they come to see us. So what we really need is, unless there's something else somebody wants to discuss, I think the chair would be ready to entertain a motion. Huh? I got no place to go.
All right.
At any time.
I'll make a motion to move forward with the RLE, Enclave, Modular Bartram, and EAPC projects as they are now for the first round of proposals.
To recommend that to the city commission.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll second.
Kate? Further discussion? I know a little bit about Robert and his rules. Eric, did you have something you want to say?
Want Jim to draft the motion? Who's going to put it to the question?
Yeah, we'll put it, it'll be in the minutes, but we'll draft a motion to present to the city commission.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty succinct.
It's pretty clear.
You're just recommending the 4.
Yeah.
That's what the motion
We're
is.
asking the city commission to approve those 4, to narrow it down to those 4, so we can move ahead with the process we've been discussing.
Can we add, based on the cumulative scoring, I mean, something about why these are being recommended? It's based upon the cumulative scoring of, right? The scoring rubric that the committee had agreed upon and set up, right? I just think there has to be some more clarification on that, if you don't mind an amendment to that motion.
Okay.
You want a narrative, right?
A line saying that those were the top 4 scores.
Yes.
Yes, like, why were those 4 recommended? It was based upon the rubric that was
Based on the scoring.
previously approved by this committee.
And that rubric was also approved by city commission when they approved the RFP.
Yes. You're willing to make that amendment to your
Yes.
motion?
Do I need to say it again?
No.
Okay.
Kate, do you agree to second that amended motion? Okay. Okay. And, yeah, so we'll bring that to the city commission on October 13th, assuming everybody votes in favor of it.
Charlie, you getting ready for politics? You kind of understand these motions and stuff, huh?
You know, I've been on the periphery for a long time. Some of it just a little osmosis, you know. Okay, any further discussion of that? All right. Do we, yeah, okay. You knew where I was going with that, yes. Okay, we'll have a roll call vote. Stand by. Anybody, do you have a list of people?
Valerie knows how to do it.
Okay, all right, okay. Thank you. All right. Mallory?
Aye.
Claire?
Aye.
Joe Raso's absent. Shannon?
Aye.
Kent?
Aye.
Caitlin?
Aye.
Taylor?
Aye.
Emma is absent. Tim Mahoney?
Aye.
Denise is absent. John is absent. Dave Pipcorn?
Aye.
And Michelle Turnberg is absent. The chair votes aye, so the motion carries. And so you'll help us write that up, what we laid out here? Someone will?
I'm happy to help with whatever, the minutes, I think will
Yeah,
reflect
yeah.
everything, but I'm happy to help. And
Kimber will be
anyway.
doing the minutes, I think.
Oh, Kimber is,
ultimately,
okay.
so, yeah. So when we get the minutes done, then you and Jim can
Happy
work
to
together.
review it and
Yeah.
tweak it if
You
needed.
don't feel we've stepped on any illegal landmines here?
I don't think so, not yet. So far, so good.
Not yet. Optimistic. Okay, so this is the new document that you've fleshed out?
This is sort of the old and the new. The first 4 pages are the original RFP, and the last pages was in the original RFP, and it talks about what kind of things we would ask for in phase 2. So what I've got there in the top half of the page, that was in the RFP. So what we would be asking for is really more detailed plans of the convention center and the full-service hotel, architectural concept drawings, the site plan for parking, vehicle access, pedestrian connections, landscaping, and more detailed cost estimates in terms of, the land, the building, the site, the furniture, equipment, all of that would have to be included in our cost estimates. The financial plan for the development in terms of what equity commitments they have, loan commitments, property tax incentives if they're looking for something like that. And then their pro forma, how they're going to integrate this with the sales efforts of Visit Fargo Moorhead, and then the schedule for completion of the construction. So those would be asked. But I thought if you, some other things you think we should be asking for, just forward those to me. And then on the bottom, I think maybe if we have some time for some discussion, is just to draft what kind of evaluation criteria are we going to use for this next 4 you know, do we going to try to rank them 1 to 10? Are we going to just rank them against each other maybe? And these are the kind of criteria that I thought we'd certainly look at. And these could all be equal, or we could try to weight them. Some of them are more of a kind of a pass-fail, either you're in the budget or you're not. But certainly the site advantages is one factor. What's the advantage of this particular site versus the other sites? We've kind of done that a little bit already and saw that these 4 rows to the top. The convention center site plan and floor plan, this is where I think we want to bring back HVS and have them look at the floor plan of the convention center, because how's it going to operate? I know some of you have some of that expertise, but I think it would be good to have this outside consultant do that to see how the building would flow. Questions like, is the catering too far away from, I think that's going to be important, and have someone that's got some experience in those kind of things. The architectural design, that's pretty subjective. You can either like it or you're not going to like it. The hotel plan, you know, what's going to be in the hotel? Is it going to be, if we want full service, what's that exactly? Does it have a restaurant? Does it have conference rooms? Does it have a pool? So you see exactly what you're going to get in the hotel. Then the convention center, their operations plan, how their pro forma. Does that make sense in terms of how any revenue and losses would be shared? The costs and the schedule, again, it costs us more of the value. We know we have that 37 to 41 million, and we have to be in that range. And so how much can we get for that amount? And then the capability of the developer, those last two, I think that's where I probably want to visit with, Susan and say, do we bring in Baker Tilly to review some of these at the end? And maybe that's only maybe 2 will rise to the top as we start to look at these other things. But certainly before we get into any agreement, we'd be doing some, deep dive into their financial background and whether or not they have the capability to, pull the investors and the banks together and fully operate this. So those are, if you can think of anything else, we can add that, but we can have some more discussion at the next meeting on these factors.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd maybe just add, maybe a possible addition that we would like is making sure that they fully have considerations and responses to the specific committee questions, right? So we'd want them to make sure that they're answering those as part of their second phase proposal. I maybe just weigh in on the financial component of this. I think it's such a critical piece that if we have to have assurance that their financial modeling is solid before I would hate for us to advance to that and then end up that a pro forma doesn't work and now we're back. I mean, if you're to this phase, I think you're to the phase now that you have to be able to firmly demonstrate the financial pro forma with it. So if that's more intense, I get it, but this is a pretty massive decision being made, so.
That's a good point. We should probably look at them all 4, and then certainly before we sign the agreement, the last one, we're going to really go deep.
Yeah. Other comments? So here's a question. Do you want to meet next week, or do you want to take next week off? We could talk some more about, if we could come back next week and talk more about this RFP and try to nail that down, I wouldn't have any objection to doing that. I think it'd be okay if it was ready, because then we could start, after the commission meeting, we could start inviting them in to do questions and answers with us. Do you think you can give us a more detailed written version of this with the things we've been talking about here for next week?
Yeah, I think I can get something, for next week, a little more detailed for next week. And I think, the meetings with them probably want to, if you want to do that on like the 17th and the 24th.
Mm-hmm. I would like to do that.
What's the thought on the RFP is one thing, right? And then while we're working on the responses of the questions, is the thought then that the scoring rubric for phase 2 would then be identified and solidified? Because there's one thing, the RFP is one, but then how are we going to score all of those is another consideration.
I think it's probably more in the scoring. I think, this list, there's probably it's pretty well good list of what we expect from them. I think this might be a little different, maybe Eric, one weigh in on this is, as far as them submitting financial information, this is some things where it may be, they want that confidential in terms of like who their investors are and all that. And we can do that, you probably wouldn't see the information, but our financial consultant would, and our financial consultant would tell us, is it adequate or is it not? That's kind of how we've dealt with
Is that standard procedure for
That has
projects
been-
like this?
Yes.
Because we're transparent. But if that's standard procedure, I guess,
That's
whatever.
been the standard procedure on some of our, downtown parking ramp projects where we have, we don't even know who the investor is, but we've had them kind of checked out to make sure. I mean, with Block 9, we knew who it was, but we didn't, all their financial information wasn't public, but
Sure.
we got an assurance that they had the ability to build that.
But they do have to disclose it to your consultant so they can
Correct.
give you the answer.
Yeah.
Eric?
Yeah, just chime in just to say, yeah, I mean, it is standard procedure. It sounds like we do it all the time, but it doesn't happen all that often. But we do encounter situations, and it's frequently with proposals to Jim. I don't know about other places at City Hall, but certainly with Jim, where people submit things, and the open record law clearly protects it because it's confidential information, either financially or proprietary information. The recipe to the secret sauce of the Big Mac, for example, that kind of thing. So that's typical. But the other thing I thought I'd just touch on, if I recall the RFP, there's this idea that you're going to end up recommending a ranking to the city commission ultimately, and then they accept the ranking. We start negotiating with the first winner. There always will be a little bit of contingency when we start negotiation. We're going to be diving into more detail than even where we are in analyzing phase 2. And so, again, there'll be maybe a little bit of repeat of this just to solidify the financial plan. How well is it backed? And ultimately, are there guarantees somehow that we need, literally a financial guarantee from someone? And how sound is that? Those things kind of become the devil in the detail, and they may be approached again during the negotiations as we start talking to the number one.
Well, sure. I mean, nothing's final until a deal is struck between the city and whoever the developer is, or developers. So you're saying you think we need to come up with a different scoring rubric, or could we tweak the one we have?
I think the one we have is for, really doesn't focus on finances
Right.
or costs
Yeah.
and the kind of things that we're getting in now. I don't know if we want to just, have a certain number of points for each of these, and if you want to weight them, or do you want to, since we're down to 4, do you want to just, everybody has to rate them 1 through 4 on each of these categories?
That would certainly be the simplest way when we have fewer projects to deal with, and just use the raw scores, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do y'all think? I mean, it's a pretty elaborate system we came up with the first time around, but it's fewer people and it's probably more straightforward.
Yeah, I think more importantly are what are we
What are we
rating them
rating?
on, and are they all equally weighted, right? I think that's the bigger question of, does it all have the same? And to the point on architectural design is going to be much more subjective. So how do you add enough, take out some of that subjectivity, but it's going to be difficult to do, so.
Yeah.
More requirements on specific things than just subjective things. So I'm just thinking next week, if we don't cancel, finalizing this RFP and waiting out how we want the scoring to look, and then we would bring them back on the 17th for Q&A. Is that correct?
The first two, yeah.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, I just as soon keep moving, absolutely, 100%. Right, Mayor? Because there's going to be somewhere in there, at some point after we've interviewed them all and give this document to them, there's going to be a 60 or a 90-day window that we're going to fight about, about how long it has to be, And we'll ask them when they come in and talk to us, so do you really need 90 days? Could you do it in 60? I think the original RFP was really like 70 or 75 days. Which,
Holidays right now kind of goofs that up a little bit as well.
yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think getting feedback from them. I mean, the ones that are ready will give you a real short window, and the ones that need more time will give you a longer window.
Yeah. Well, no one said it would be easy. Okay, well, let's meet next week. Jim, maybe you can detail the things more. Maybe we'll maybe get together next week, okay?
Do you think we only need an hour next week? Or do you want to keep it that an hour and a half? Okay,
You think an hour and a half? I think an hour is going to be plenty, yeah.
okay, so the 10th will only be an hour, but then keep the hour and a half for the Q&A sessions.
Well, I think those will be 2 hours. I think we should give each one an hour.
Okay,
Yeah, so the 17th and the 24th will be 2 hours.
okay.
Next week, only an hour. Yeah, shouldn't be a problem. All right. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.